Good morning everybody. I hope we're all well and enjoying life. I'm really looking forward to today. Had a bit of a not so cracking week this week. Had my second jab. Sort of knocked me for six a little bit worse than my first, which was a bit weird. So today is really the first day that I've really started feeling like myself. So I've decided, what do you do when you need cheering up? Tag day. So I am going to rock out loads of tags today, so I'm very, very excited. I'm going to have a full-on stitching day. So we're on tag 28. Before I start this one, I just want to mention the Oat. I've mentioned this before in other videos. Basically, an Oat, it's based on food usually, which is just about a scrap or a morsel that's left over. But I know quite a few people use it for their little jars. I have my little portable jar, and then my slightly bigger jar. And basically, it's just all the little bits of thread that you're left over with when you've been stitching. I know it's a little bit ridiculous. You'd probably normally throw them away, but if you're like me, you find it very, very hard to throw things away. So, because I love upcycling stuff as much as possible, you need to be collecting these for an upcoming tag. Hopefully you've been collecting one. If you haven't, you need to crack on and get one collected, because we're going to be doing a tag based on an Oat. So I'm quite excited about that. Quite nice to use all these up. So that's an upcoming tag. This week, it's our stitching week. So we're going to look at two different ways of doing a spider's wheel. We're going to look at a woven and a wrapped. So what I've started off with is a piece of fabric. It could be patterned, planed, it really, really doesn't matter. And you can do as many of these on your tag as you would like. I've taken my tag and I've drawn around it. And I'm just doing this in my hoop because it just makes it so much easier. We're going to start with the woven one first. So I'm going to do the woven in the small circle. And just for my circles, I just got, that's the inside of a perlé thread. And then I just got a button and drew around that as well. Okay. The main difference with the two is firstly the number of spokes, and secondly whether you're weaving or wrapping. So I'm going to do the woven one first. So I'm using a water-soluble pen. Most of this should get covered up, but it just means that if there's any of it left, I can actually see it. So your woven spoke has an odd number. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, get yourself a thread. So I'm using my perlés. You can use matching colours, contrasting colours. I've decided to go for greens today. Looking out of my studio, all the leaves are full on all the trees, and there's so many different shades of green at the moment. It's just fantastic. So we're going to put in our spokes. So that's the first job. This is another one of these ones that's just really, really nice to do when you just sat chilling. Got some coming up that are going to be ones you've really got to think about. Bit excited. I sat last night doing a few plans of different ones because I knew I'd got all, well, just about all today to sit and sew. I thought, right, I want to get loads of tags started today so that I can share the starts with you, and then I can sit this weekend stitching away. Okay, so I've got the spokes on there. Okay, just tie that off at the back. Now I'm going to do this with a solid thread, a solid colour. However, if you have any variegated threads, they are the nicest ones to do for both these stitches. Just absolutely heaven. But you can change colour as you are going around if you want. Totally up to you. Okay, so let's see if this decides it's going to play. We'll bring it in a little bit. Move that out the way. Okay, so I'm going to come up in the middle of my wheel. Now, it's better if you get a needle that, it could be 100% blunt. This one's probably just not as sharp because we're not going to go back through the fabric now at all. And all we're basically going to do is go under, over, under, and just pull it gently. Okay, over, under, over. Okay, so what we want to do is just get that nice and neat, and that is all we do. So I'm going over, under, over, under. Now, you don't want to pull it too tight because what can happen is you can end up distorting those spokes. So just get yourself going a couple of rounds, and then all you just need to do, just push them just into the middle. Just get that so it's nice and even. Oops. Over, under, over, over, under. This is all you end up saying to yourself the whole time that you're doing this. Over, under. That's over, over, under, over, under. So the reason that we do the odd ones is so that you've always got where you've gone under. The next time you go around, you have gone under. So that's over, under, over, under. And you basically keep going right the way to the edge. And you start creating this beautiful little pattern. Now, because we're doing this one on the surface, or both of them actually are on the surface, they sort of become a little bit three-dimensional. So they start lifting off the surface. Under, over, under. Just keep turning it around. You do sort of start chanting in your head. It's also one of those ones that if anybody's sat listening to you, you do sound a bit bonkers. Now, as you start coming a little bit further out, hopefully you can start seeing now I'm getting that lovely woven sort of feel to it. Oh, there we go. Look at that. That's beautiful. As you start coming towards the outside, it is really, really important now that you don't pull that thread too tight. There's hardly any tension. I'm just doing it so I know that it's pulling just next to the previous one. Now, if you run out of thread, all you need to do is when you've done an over is just go back down. So if I'd run out of thread there, I'd go back and do the over, go down and tie it off at the back, and then bring my thread back up at that side, and then just carry on. So you want quite a bit of thread on your needle when you're doing this, otherwise you're going to end up stopping and starting all the time. So I'm not pulling that thread now too tight. You want it quite tight at the beginning so that you get a really nice start, but now we're just making sure that that thread, so if you pull it too tight, it's going to go across rather than round. Okay, over, under, over, under. Yes, as you get further out, you'll just be doing over unders. Out. Whoops. See, that's what can happen now. as you're going out, your spokes, oh, it's because I've got that one probably a little bit wide, need to stay about the same length. Now you've got a couple of choices now, because this is beginning. Let's see if I can keep going. But the beauty with this particular stitch is, there we go, you can actually stop at any point. So you could take it right the way to the very, very edge so that you can't see any of the spokes. You might just do 2-3 lines and then actually leave the spokes sticking out, especially if you've done like a contrasting thread. Okay. Oh, there we go. Over, oh, nearly missed one out there. Over, under. There we go. Over, under. Now, one of the things that I'm probably looking at now is when I look at my outside spokes, I probably haven't got them measured out. I didn't use a protractor, I just used my eye to sort of guess. The bigger your circle, the more spokes you want, because by the time you get to the outside, like that one there is really spread out. I didn't measure that at all, so I'm not going to keep going round. I'm just going to finish that one off just there. So I'm just going to go through to the back. So I can just see a little bit of my little spokes. Oh, that's come off my needle. So don't make your circles too big. The bigger they are, the more spokes you'll have to put in. Just tie that off at the back. So the one I did with, oh, so you ought, got your little bit of thread, pop it in your jar. Okay. The one I just did, excuse me, just need to blow my nose. Oh, there we go. Was, we grab a ruler, I think they're about 1 inch. Yeah, that was 1 inch in diameter, whereas my button is 1.5 inches. But I know I'm going to do a lot more spokes on that one. So that one there is our woven stitch. So you can see how if you'd done it in a variegated thread, it would change colour as it came out. So all I need to do with this, because I can still see my pen, is I just get a little brush with a bit of water on it and dab it on, and the pen will disappear. I might do a couple more little ones and maybe leave the spokes on them, so you can really play around with this stitch once you get going. So the wrapped one is an even number of stitches. Now I've gone for a bigger circle, so I need to have more spokes. And you're really looking at the distance of the spokes at the outside here, so that when you get to the outside it's not going to distort. So if I was going to do that one again with 1 inch, I'd probably stick another couple of spokes in, just so that when it gets to the outside I've got a little bit more structure with the spokes. Okay. Right. Oh, so somebody's setting off to work this morning. Okay, let's get another colour. So I'm going for a brighter green this time. So here we go. Got my bright green. Quite a long thread, so it's going to be a bit fiddly to start off with. Oh no, gone wrong. I need to stitch my spokes. I was ready to start wrapping, but I don't. I need to stitch my spokes in. Okay, getting a bit carried away there. Okay, so I'm coming up the centre. Okay, stitch your spokes. Try and go back down the middle bit, but be careful as well when you're doing your spokes that you don't pull them too tight, because if you've got a fabric that's a little bit more of an open weave, you can end up, if you get the tension too tight, actually making a hole in the middle. It's fine if you do, because by the time you've done all your weaving, not weaving with this one, it's the wrapping over the top, it'll pull it all back together again. Okay, just hoping I've got enough thread on my needle to do all these ones. Stitching, scissors out the way, over the lines. Oops. Just get a little bit thicker in the middle, because obviously you've got a lot of threads going there. Now I'm doing these to the middle. Traditionally that's what you would do, but obviously you can play around with these. You could do an off-centered one. I've not done one of those, I just thought about that while I was just doing this bit. It'd be a bit tricky to work it out because you'll get narrower at one side, but it could always be that you go underneath and then carry on the wrapping over the top. Once, well, you'll see once we get going. Okay, right, so I've created my little wheel. There we go. Tying it off on the back, I'm just tying it off onto one of the spokes. So just go underneath, then create a loop, twice through the loop, and it just creates a knot. Okay, back in there. Right, now we're ready. I was obviously just getting a little bit too excited. Okay, right, so with this one, a bit more complicated because we're going to be wrapping rather than weaving. So decide where you want to start. Come up through the middle. Oops, thread through. There we go. Okay, so here we go. Decide where you want to start. You're going to go underneath two of your spokes to start off. Get your thread under those two. Okay, now what you always do with this is the one that you've come up, so I've come up this one, you go back and under two. Now this one you do have to start it off quite gently, and what I've done, don't know if you can, well, you can see that I've wrapped that round that thread, around that spoke. You need to push these into the middle. So I've come up in this one here, so I'm going to go back one, under two. So you wrap it around the spoke that you've come up. Okay, so oops, that's where my threads come out here. So I'm going to go back and under. Now it's quite important with this one that the wrappings that you've done, you push them right to the middle. So this is just a bit faffier just to get started on. So I've come up on this one, so I go back and under. You see there's my loop. So I've created that loop around that thread and I pull it and it's wrapped it, and then I just push it right into the middle. So the first few that you do is just getting you started. Oh, I've gone through that blooming, what's it? I've actually stitched through the actual thread. That's a bit annoying. Let's pull that back out. Okay. Should I go underneath? Okay. Push that one into the middle. So I've got my thread under, so that wraps. Push that into the middle. Right, if I just do a few more. Oops. Just push it into the middle. So you're always going back 1, under 2, back 1, under 2. Make sure that these are all in the middle. And again, oh sorry, just move that out of the way so you can get that a little bit closer. So I've gone all the way around now. And you're just going to carry on. Now I find this easier to have this on a table because I can keep just pushing those in and then just turning my hoop. Oops. It's one as well. Hand stitching, you always think, oh, a bit of a fast forward button just so that you can see. This is going to look like, they get really, really pretty as you go further out because where you're doing the wrapping, you tend to get a little rib on the wheel. And again, these are ones where you could go so far out, and if you've got a really nice contrasting thread as your spokes, you can leave those visible. I think as long as my spokes play the game, I'll take this one right to the edge. Now once you get going, it becomes a little, oh god, sorry, it becomes a little bit easier. I just hit everybody then. I do apologise. Oops. Just become a little bit easier then because you can just pull that thread inwards. Right. I'm not going to make it sit and watch me get right to the edge. I just want to get a little bit further out just so that you can see the effect. Now, you want the tension around the loop, but you don't want the tension as in pulling it once you start getting a little bit further out. So it is just a case of once you've done that little loop, is just use your thumbnail just to push it into the middle. If you pull it really, really tight, once you get a little bit further out, you're going to really start distorting your wheel again. So it's a bit faffy to start off, and it doesn't look that effective when you first start. But once you get about halfway out, you can start seeing the little wheel pattern beginning to emerge. And again, I could go so far with one colour, and then if I want to change colour, all I do is when I do a wrap over, that's where you'd go back down your fabric, tie it off at the back. But you could change colour as you go in, but hopefully you can see as well if you've done this in a variegated thread. Would that look? Okay, I'll do a couple more rounds. So as we're going a little bit further out, so just do a quick reminder. So where the threads come out, I just go back and under 2. So you're always going back 1, and what that does, that creates that loop that wraps around your spoke, and then you just move on to the next one. So with the first one, we're weaving. So if you're doing the woven, you need an odd number of spokes, and if you're doing the wrapping, it's an even number of spokes. Odds and evens. Okay, hold that up. There we go. Hopefully you can see the difference. So the woven one is really, really pretty. Gives you that lovely in and out, especially if you do it sort of in a shiny thread. And then this one, you'll get little coils. These little coils that have started appearing now come all the way out to the edge. They look so pretty. I'm not going to make you sit and watch me do it all the way to the end. It'll send me a little bit dizzy. So that's our tag for week 28 is our spider's wheel. Just remember the key. If you go woven, it's an odd number of spokes. Wrapped, it's an even number of spokes. And the bigger your circle, the more spokes you need. So my spoke's probably in between. It's like my little finger. Whereas on that one there, I probably should have done some more spokes. Especially that one. That's way too far. That's like my thumb. So probably go like little finger is better for that. Don't forget to be collecting your art. Little jar scraps, you're going to need those. Okay. Might even be next week, you never know. So that's me for another week. I hope everybody is well and sharing. Please subscribe to the channel. It just means then that I can carry on doing all these projects. And please remember, polite reminder, if you are especially videoing this, could you please put a link to the original and tag me in if you're sharing. I can't wait to see everybody's tags. Thanks to anybody that sent me tags for the big half-year challenge. If you've just joined in, welcome. Feel free to go back and do any of the previous tags in any order that you fancy doing. Just because we've done them in this order doesn't mean to say you've got to do them in that order. And I really look forward to seeing what everybody's doing this summer. Okay, love and hugs, and I'll see you soon.